I'm here today with Noel Janis-Norton. She is the author of Calmer, Easier, Happier Screen Time. And today Noel is going to give us fantastic strategies to get screen time under control. Noel, parents don't always know when it is time to butt in, what is too much screen time. There are a lot of issues around screens. How do parents know when it's time to do something?
Well, one of the issues is how much time children are spending in front of a screen. But another issue is what they're doing on the screen, what values they're absorbing, who they're hanging out with in cyber world, where they're doing it, when. One of the statistics is that many, even preteens, if they're allowed to have screens in their room, they're awake long past their bedtime. And parents don't even know that. And also another issue is what activities is the screen replacing? All the things that children used to enjoy doing that start to feel boring compared to screens, which are always exciting.
So when does a parent jump in? How much is too much?
Well, there are guidelines in the book, specific guidelines, let's say, from the British Medical Association. My guidelines are actually more stringent than that because I firmly believe that screens should be a small part of family life. So I'm not against screens, but they need to have their place, and that place is small because there are so many other interesting, important, useful things for children to be doing.
So are you saying that the parent themselves should decide?
Yes.
How much is too much?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That part of parents being in charge is parents deciding, based on their own values, deciding what they want the lifestyle of their family to be, rather than leaving it up to the child. Because if you leave it up to the child, or even a teenager, even a late teenager, they're still young, they're still immature, they're still inexperienced, and parents know what's better for their children. Whereas children and teenagers, well, they're experts in knowing what they want and can be very vocal about that and very persuasive and very insistent. But parents have much more experience, much more maturity, much more wisdom, so parents have to be in charge.
Okay, so a parent has identified then that they feel their child is on the screens. Let's just say the problem is too frequently during the day, or okay, so that's the problem.
Yes.
Let's get some strategies.
Okay.
What do parents do if they want to change their child's screen time?
The first strategy is to prepare the environment to make the home a largely screen-free place. And one way to do that is to have a drop zone right near the door where everybody, parents included, just deposits all their gadgets, all their gizmos, all their devices until a set time during the evening when they can gather them up again and use them. So that the usual thing that's happening isn't screens.
Okay, so that's a good sort of overall decision and maybe a decision of what parents are going to do, but how do they implement that? If children don't want to participate, if children say, no, I'm not dropping my screen by the door.
Well, they won't want to participate. We can take that as a given, that because of the addictive nature of screens, the likelihood is that there'll be plenty of complaining and whinging and saying, well, I won't do it. And what I say to parents is, remember when your kid was a toddler and he said, no, I won't. 5 minutes later, he'd forgotten about that, and he did it. Well, as kids get older, it's going to be longer than 5 minutes, but just when they refuse, it doesn't really mean they're refusing. It just means they're blurting out how they feel, which is, this feels awful. And the reason it feels awful for them to curtail their screen time is because screens are addictive. And one of the definitions of addiction is the more you do it, the more you want to do it. Whereas with most pleasurable activities, you do it for a while, and then your brain or your body has had enough, and you're ready to go on to the next thing. But with an addiction, you don't want to go on to the next thing. You just want more and more of that thing because it's a brain-altering activity.
So let's just see how, I want to understand here a little bit more about the strategy. So we're going to try to make the home more of a screen-free home.
Yes.
Would it be better to start, for example, with firstly no screens at mealtime?
Yes, for sure.
And then maybe a bit more, or do you do it sort of the whole hog all at once? How would somebody do this incrementally? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, gradually.
Or what do you think?
I always recommend doing things gradually because it's not the child's fault that they drifted into this dependency on screens for entertainment. It's not the parents' fault either. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the way screens are. So to rip them away from this thing that they have come to rely on, it's not going to go well. So definitely I say do it gradually. And the funny thing is, if parents are willing to do something gradually, which is not the same as slowly, but if they're willing to do it gradually, then kids start to feel better, feel more relaxed, feel more like they can do other things other than just be in front of a screen, and they start making the progress more, rather than the parents just feeling like they have to make it happen.
When we were speaking earlier, you mentioned that perhaps parents might fill in some of that space and that time that a child used to spend on a screen. So if a child were to come home every afternoon and sit for 3 hours on the computer, I think you were suggesting maybe a park trip, or that parents organize something so that it isn't just vacant time where a child doesn't know what to do.
Yes, and part of the reason for that is that when a child or a teenager has become dependent on screens, everything else starts to feel boring. So if you say, how about let's do this? Nah. Well, we could do this. Boring. So rather than parents offering or suggesting, parents actually have to say, this is what we're doing. We're going for a walk, or we're going to the gym, or we're going to play in the garden, or we're going to play Monopoly, whatever it is, and to require it rather than to ask the child if they want to.
Noel, I'm sorry. What about that intransigent child? The child who there is no chance they're going for a walk. They're not putting their shoes back on. No, they put their foot down. What's a parent supposed to do?
Well, intransigence isn't going to just be about screens. That angry, resistant way of being that some kids do drift into is often a result of the parent-child relationship having become very strained and tense, and part of that is that the parents and the children aren't spending enough one-on-one time together. So one of the things I talk about in the book, which helps everybody to feel better and helps to loosen that screen dependency, is what I call special time, which is one parent with one child doing something that you both enjoy, not in front of a screen, doesn't cost money, it's not about a sweet treat, you're not taking them to Starbucks for a croissant. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not what special time is. Just actually doing things.
Just spending time together.
Spending time together. It could be playing cards, it could be folding laundry, it could be looking for worms in the garden, it could be telling knock-knock jokes. All of those things that I just mentioned are things that in the recent past, in the last week, parents have told me they've been doing for special time, so they're uppermost in my mind. But there's so many things, and of course, just nice conversations.
Yeah.
And often parents feel like they don't have the time.
Yeah.
Well, we do have the time. We just have to rearrange it differently. Because when children are having a problem, we end up spending quite a lot of time dealing with that. So let's spend the time before there's a problem so that we can prevent and minimize most problems.
So we can't really expect our children to have the screens taken away and expect that they're going to be able to fill that void. It's maybe a bit about us jumping in and spending time with our children.
Yes, exactly. Partly because kids have forgotten what they enjoy doing due to the screen dependency, but also because children and teenagers need that one-to-one connection.
They really want it.
They want it and they need it.
Yeah.
And the intransigent child is often the one who will reject the special time, either because they think they're just going to be told off yet again, or because they don't really believe that the parent wants to be with them, because it hasn't happened very much. So parents have to insist.
Yeah. Very interesting and very good advice. I've been speaking with Noel Janis-Norton about how to get screen time under control. Please take a look at my website, where you will also find an article that complements this video that Noel has written. You will also find on my website a previous video that Noel and I created, which is about calmer, easier, happier homework, and there's an article adjoining that as well. Noel, thank you.
It was lovely.